most great founders have a very clear spike. They are not great at everything, but they're really great at something, and then they leverage that. So that's number one. Number two is they have a ton of drive. And drive is very different, I think, from passion. I think passion is important. It's great with passionate people, but we all know a lot of passionate people who never get anything done. So passion in itself is not enough. Drive is more, yes, you're passionate, but you also have that combined with raw ambition and the ability to execute. So can you see that people have moved things forward in the past, achieved different things, hit milestones, and are they really ambitious about solving an important problem and doing something really big? So that's number two. Number three is grit. Right? Great founders never give up. Right? They just keep on hammering.
Absolutely. We're not looking to use AI to replace lawyers. I mean, lots of fun and games in the press about that, right? New technology like this comes out and our knee-jerk reaction is to go full force and just, replace all lawyers. No, it's not going to work. But there's a whole bunch of high volume, low value, repetitive work that lawyers do every single day of the week.
We had a really deep conversation one day and say, well, what do we do if one day, let's say social media dropped off the face of the earth? Like, how do we remain a real legacy business and continue to have the impact that we have? And I mentioned it before, it's one of the things that still to this day, it doesn't matter what time or when we read them, when we see the impact that our work has had for a person, I get the same butterflies in the stomach and the same feeling of like, this is the reason why, this is our purpose, and I feel as though a lot of my purpose to be able to do this.
And, the COVID hit. And
yes.
Yeah, I don't think it will happen. Like one day when there's a digital human who could be very lifelike, very intelligent conversations, and they could be agentic. The digital human interface that we're building could enable a lot of automations in just one screen, right?
This is AI Edge, powered by Microsoft, an unplugged podcast series exploring how AI is transforming Asia's startup landscape. Each episode features candid conversations with founders and industry leaders who are pioneering the next wave of tech breakthroughs. We'll dive into their personal journeys, uncovering what it takes to build successful ventures and scale impact in an evolving world of AI. Whether you're creating the next big thing, navigating the challenges of growth, this podcast series is your front row seat to the future of AI. So let's get started. Hello, I'm Andrew Boyd, also known as Boydie, and I'm the GM of Digital Natives for Asia at Microsoft. With me today is Djay Lee, the Chief Product Officer at WRTN Technologies. Djay, you and your co-founders met in school and were friends at school. And what inspired you guys to build WRTN together, and how did that shared vision evolve into like an AI-powered platform designed for consumers?
So we actually had a very unexpected beginning, I would say. We started off as a volunteering organization, and that organization was founded by our CEO. And it was basically an offline event that basically teaches students how to read and write professionally. And we all worked as mentors or organizing committees of that organizations. And we had a really good time. The organization grew. Its name's called KSCY, Career Scholars Conference for Youth.
Okay.
And it grew to one of the biggest of its kind in Asia. But then there was COVID.
Yeah.
We had to cancel all the venues, which means we were in debt, which is, we're like in 100K debt, which doesn't seem like crazy amount, but at the time, we were a lot younger, and that amount meant more to us. Luckily, we transitioned everything online, and we could basically host the entire conference online. And basically that allowed us to pay back the debt within a couple months.
Ooh.
That's when we realized if you use technology, you could amplify whatever you're doing to a great multiples. So we decided to seek out the technology that could help us in that situation to do what we were doing. And we landed on something called GPT series that was moving on from GPT-2 to GPT-3 at the time.
Yeah.
Why did we decide to focus a lot more on consumer? That was an important question we had. I know it makes more sense now, but at the time, nobody believed us except for a handful of venture capitals who invested in us. Our thesis was, one, foundation model technologies are so good and so important that it's going to be commoditized.
Yeah.
Same as electricity.
Yeah.
We thought it was really good. We thought it had a lot of potential. And just because it has a lot of potential, we just couldn't figure out a future where, the technology itself becomes a moat. That's when we realized this is something that we have to focus on. Where's going to be the moat? And we figured out that it's got to be in the application space. It's got to be something related to scale on the either supply side or the demand side, or it's got to be some sort of a lock-in of the users.
Yeah.
So that's when we decided to focus on the application space. And I think we drove the entire business towards a lot of the, consumer side, I would say.
That's awesome. And I think, that story and just sharing how kind of COVID, with all of its challenges, created an opportunity to kind of force you to respond and react is a blessing in disguise, even though it doesn't feel it in that moment. And then you go back to those first principles when you're building the new business and you're looking at, okay, we can see the future of this technology, but actually, how do we make that something that is a durable business? And that's, for me, when I hear from founders like yourself and founding teams, those are some of the most important moments where you're actually, you're onto something, but you're thinking about how do you make it a durable business. So that's awesome to hear. And you guys are aiming to become just that local champion in the AI era across Asia, following that trajectory of the other multi-billion-dollar tech aggregators. Can you talk us and the audience through some of those key AI applications that you're developing and what you're focused on to make that happen?
That allows us to transition into the second thesis we had when we first saw the technology. The second thesis was AI was the great material for the next container. What I mean by that is, in Korea, we have a really high GDP per capita, but we don't have that big of a population. But there's a proven business model where if you take up around 60 or 70% of the population. So if you have a service that has a monthly active user base of 30 million, 40 million, etc., there's a proven business model where you create some sort of a mix between commerce, ads, and transaction fees, and basically generate billions of worth of revenue. And that has been the way for Naver, Kakao, Coupang, and Toz. Multitude of successful companies have went through that path. All of them consumer. When we saw AI, what we mean by a container, material for container, is that we don't know what the next product is exactly going to look like. We didn't know at the time. We still are in the process of figuring that out. But one thing we're sure of is AI is a material that you can build the next generation service that could hold a container that could hold 60 to 70 to 80% of the population. As a result, now we landed on, I would say, two forms of products. One's entertainment product, which is essentially a character chat. Maybe you might have Dungeons and Dragons. You might have heard of Dungeons and Dragons. It's essentially like TRPG. When we say character chat, a lot of people think of character AI, and they basically think of people just talking to character because they're lonely. But that's not the gist of it. At least what we are selling. We are doing the biggest, I would say, the character chat out there in Korea. In terms of revenue and a lot of the size of the engagement we see, essentially, AI becomes one of those webtoon or web novel artists that would generate the story based upon your decisions. So it's like TRPG, where the dungeon master is played by AI, and it's very entertaining because unlike the previous forms of storytelling or entertainment, it's not a one-way experience. It's very interactive. You get to influence the plot, what happens. So that's essentially one side of our business, which is generating cash flow. I think will have a potential to become something as big as webtoon in Korea. AIs were not as good as writers, were not as good as artists in the beginning, but now I think they're on par with an average, or even better. And in fact, as time passes, even the best of the writers or artists, I think AI is going to be as good as them.
Yeah.
What we're seeing is then you get a choice. Do you want, if they're of the equal quality, do you want a story that's generated for everybody and you just consume that one, or do you want your own story being written on the spot? And I would say I would choose the latter. So I think eventually this would replace kind of the traditional Asian bite-sized entertainment industry, which is pretty much characterized by webtoon industry.
Yeah.
So that's still a multi-billion-dollar industry in Korea. We're after that one for sure. But the second part of it, which is the companion side, in terms of upside, I think it has even higher upside. The reason why we say that is because we're not so focused on productivity. 20 years ago, there was an interesting landscape of search engines in Korea. There were obviously global players like Google, and there was local player that was really focused on search itself, which was MPOS. Eventually, the one who took over the market was Naver. The reason behind that is while they were focusing on a lot of those people who were interested in search, getting their productivity high, Naver did things that are very local and also non-productivity oriented. They had things like Quora, blogs, cafes, which was community boards, and they had Junior Naver, which is basically a gaming place for kids, and all those seemingly small, local, and goofy things put together really took over the market. But they don't really have the mandate to use AI in a lot of the productivity domains. For those people, we cater our service, our companion, to have features that are related to, English education, maybe some counseling, some features that are related to like sending out discount deals, providing benefits. So we try to get closer to people's daily lives instead of just focusing on the white collar aspect of the society, I would say.
Business productivity and white collar workers is kind of where the potentially very large early gains are there. But actually, I love the way that Written is diversifying and focusing on these very different areas, and what, again, you have that creativity and vision as a founding team, and then you have the first principles approach and understanding it and creating theses about it to know which markets you're pursuing, and that's awesome. I often see when I'm traveling is I go and bring the best of Asia to educate the Microsoft world, and so our head office is in Redmond, and one of the things that I'm often sharing is how innovation is coming from Asia, and the difference that we have is being able to kind of leapfrog because we don't have the burdens of traditional business models or approaches. We're actually, and you've got that ability to kind of think unconstrained and build businesses unconstrained. Whenever I go to Korea, I just see so much in terms of AI, innovation and opportunity focused not just on the domestic market, not just on the Asian market, but actually globalizing and putting Korea, that maybe is once overlooked, really on the map in terms of tech innovation. How do you see that? What do you think is the culture that's driving that there? Obviously, you're a key part of it, but I'd love your views on that.
There are multiple reasons why Korea particularly sees quite a bit of local players that innovates successfully, and during both the internet and mobile era, and we're continuing to see those cases. Korea has a few unique characteristics. The first is that it's very urban, in a sense that most of the population is located in few urban area which is habitable. Most of the Korean lands, mountains, and it's not a habitable really. That means that there's a really, really high speed of I would say, adoption or growth in many cases. Even the basic infrastructure such as high-speed internet.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the countries that has the highest penetration rate. And we have a fairly strong, I think Singapore does too, but fairly strong science and engineering education and talents in Korea as well.
Yeah.
And also, although we don't have a huge population, our GDP per capita is pretty big. We only have 50 million people, but with that 50 million, we're somewhere in terms of global economy, we're ranked in somewhere like number 10 or 12 or something like that. There's quite a lot of value that individual person, quite a lot of purchasing power to an individual. And they're all located in urban areas, few urban areas. They have access to a lot of the things that are required to innovate or learn technology, such as high-speed internet and smartphones.
Yeah.
So I would say that those are the basic characteristics that make this market more profitable than what a normal person would think.
You know, you see it in terms of technology adoption. You see it in terms of the companies that are founded in Korea and going global, and the innovative nature of it, like yourselves. And I also see it in it's this incubator of new technologies around AI now, where business models are being generated from and taken, and I love it. And when people ask me, you know, areas that I'm excited about, I frequently come back to the fact that Korea, I believe, has the highest level of AI adoption per capita of anywhere in the world outside of the US, and it's soon looking to overtake. And that to me is a sign of people leaning into and adopting this new technology to leverage it to better their lives and better their experiences. Written made some pretty bold decisions, right? You focused on a product-led growth model and gave some of the product away for free, which I guess can be a daunting thing in this world of very expensive GPU and consumption in the AI era. Focusing really on trust of your users in the platform. So, you know, talk us through some of the challenges or opportunities and what drove that kind of decision making for you as a company when you were taking it to market.
People thought we were crazy, but we thought we were perfectly rational because we were acting out of our thesis, which was the idea that it's going to be commoditized. And the basis of being commoditized is that it's going to be way better than what we saw at the beginning, but it's going to be thousandfold cheaper.
Yeah.
The natural conclusion to that is, if it's going to be cheaper anyway, why don't you give away some for free now and have that image carved into people so that we could become the most accessible AI to people. Yeah. We didn't really have anything to lose. At the time, the cost was way higher because, you know, GPT-4 when first released were very expensive. Compared to what we have seen like a couple of years ago, all the price is way lower. The models are way better. And I think the strategy that we took at that time was very valid, because if everybody knew that models are going to be this cheap, then all of them would have done what we have done at the time to attract user and attention.
I love it. I mean, I love the way that you as a team are really fixed on your thesis, and you spend a lot of time focused on it, and then you have high conviction, right? Which is what it takes. It's fantastic that you've been proven to be right in this model, and then you know, that's incredibly validating and actually means that you've done the right thing for your customers and for the business and taking that share. And so, I mean, like, one of those things when I think about that stands out to me with Written is that engagement that you make with your customers, that kind of emotional connection that you're trying to, across all of your products, or build between your users and AI. Is that foundational to you? Why is that important in your mind, that you build that emotional connection as part of it, as well as the you know, engagement and getting them to use the product?
I would say there's a couple of reasons. Strategically speaking, we needed a moat, and that's one of the biggest moats that you can have.
Yeah.
But second of all, if you just think about user experience, right? Nobody wants to, switch between assistant A and assistant B constantly. If you meet an assistant, you want that assistant to just be a better assistant over time and just help you out until you die. I think that's a mode of thinking for most people.
Yeah.
And the reason behind that is because our brains are wired in a specific way that once you start bonding, you're creating a bond with someone. You don't want to have like 10 different assistants and agents for 10 different tasks. You want that unifying persona for you to feel stability. The reason why we solidified, I would say, our direction on that side is because we thought being right wasn't enough. It's never enough.
No.
It's always gonna be that you're right and everybody else is wrong.
Yeah.
By definition, that's something what startups should do.
Yeah.
Because you have less resources. If you think of stock investing, when everybody else doesn't know about information A, and when only you know about information A, and let's say you buy that stock, that's when the stock goes up a lot.
Yeah.
When the news about A comes out. When everybody knows about the news A, you can be the quick to market and just buy the stock quick, but then you'll only gain like 10-20%. In order to have asymmetrical returns, you need to do something others don't do, but are right decisions, which is a really hard thing to do. You got to be contrarian and right.
Yeah.
A lot of people would misunderstand you, and by definition, everyone else got to think that you're wrong, because that's the only way you can make a valuable choice and create asymmetrical returns to overcome the lack of resources as a startup. So we make a lot of unconventional decisions. We, in fact, try to lay out all the things that everybody else is doing and try to figure out where's the blind spot and try to figure out the right decisions from the blind spot. But it's really hard because most contrarian things are wrong.
Yeah.
Because society's like everybody's views and decisions are built around a lot of trials and errors.
Yeah.
And it's been time tested. So a lot of things are quite proven, I would say. But then you got to find those small gaps here and there and try to figure out your best move forward.
Well, and I'm guessing you learn a lot along the way and you make many mistakes, but you stay convicted, right? How do you decide as a team when to stop doing something that you think is right, but it's not proving out? Like, how do you make those decisions?
I think you got to make the decision ahead of the time. Let's say you are going to invest X amount of time and resources to this project, and you're expected to see Y kind of results. I think you got to set the limits ahead of the time. I'm just going to invest maximum 3 months.
Yeah.
And in those 3 months, I'm going to try my best to create some sort of an engagement or inflow or retention or whatever your standards is. If that doesn't work out, then I'm going to fold on this project. I think that's got to be the basic attitude. But you got to use your intuition to sometimes push through. That's actually led to our character chat last year. Because initially, it wasn't making a lot of money. Nor it was actually, we were actually spending quite a lot on the character chat. Its retention wasn't that great in the beginning. So we had to work a lot on developing it. I think we had at least one conviction that if you want to be one of those local aggregators, we got to do something in the entertainment space. And I think we kind of sort of pushed it through, and then we successfully monetized it and eventually became a valuable business at this point.
I love it. Lots of ideas and forced constraint at the beginning, and then trusting your conviction and judgment on those ones. Isn't that entrepreneurial spirit? Isn't that what being a founder and working in this space is all about? That's great, and thank you for sharing that with us. One of the things that I've always talked to my teams about is that in this tech space, I feel like a lot of what makes partnerships work is that emotional connection between teams and humans and that joint shared mission and goal to take on hard challenges and opportunities together. What experience have you had of your partnership with Microsoft?
I actually learned a lot. Every company has something that they're really good at.
Yeah.
Because if you're in the application space, and especially AI space, people always talk about technology, product, you got to have the best UI, UX. I mean, let's be honest. Microsoft doesn't have the best UI, UX, but they got the best sales. I think that's in the DNA of the company. I don't know how to explain this. It feels like the entire organization is trying to support you regardless of their own interest. It feels like all the salespeople or all the account managers you meet are sort of fighting against Microsoft to help you out more. I think that's a very magical feeling you would get once you're sitting on the other side of the table from Microsoft. That was a very pleasant experience.
Cool.
Both in technology and service and all sorts of manners.
And I say this to the teams as well, is if we do the right thing and partner together and work on helping you grow your business and supporting that, then the rest will come together. It's our joint success, right? So if we can earn your trust and grow together, that's better than anything.
Maybe it doesn't necessarily have to be those. It may be our ability to position ourselves in the right corner of the market at the right time. If that's engraved in our DNA, instead of trying to ignore that and we also want to be a flashy tech company, instead of trying to take our company, look good to others, I think we should really focus on the things that we're good at. We're born with talents at, I would say. And I learned that from observing Microsoft a lot, actually.
That's great to hear. Thank you. I love to ask everybody this sort of perspective question of where do you think it's going next in this era of AI and this world of the AI that we're living in at the moment? I'm pretty convinced that you are really good at thinking through thesis and approaches and kind of building businesses in this. So I'm sure you've got some perspectives you might not want to share, but generally, where do you think the market is going in this AI world, and what are you backing and what are you excited about as a company and as an individual about the future?
It may be bold to say this, but AI will be the entity that you talk to the most in your life. I would say. You spend more time with your smartphones than your families and friends combined. Similar thing would happen with AI. You would interact with AI more than you would interact with any of your family members or friends. Essentially, it'll play a lot of the roles of humans that previously was more or less burdensome to have others act for you. And in the process, obviously, you will interact more with AI because they will play the role of sometimes a teacher, sometimes an English teacher, sometimes that one friend who brings you discount deals, or it'll play the role of therapist. And it'll play roles of a lot of different individuals in your lives. We think eventually that's the direction this world is heading, and I think AI is going to be everywhere. When we say everywhere, it's going to be in the fridge, it's going to be in the TV, I think it's already in the fridge and TV. It's going to be in the vacuum cleaner, all sorts of things. And I think that will further strengthen the interaction with the AI. The ubiquity of AI would further strengthen your interaction with it. I think that's going to be a future where it'll be like, if you watch one of those fantasy movies or fantasy TV shows, if you're a wizard, you always bring this little, animal with you, or partner with you. I think AI is going to be something like that.
Yeah,
a true companion.
I love it. You're thinking creatively about products and solving real problems or challenges in this world and then evolving with it. And I love that. And I'm looking forward to being on that journey with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thanks for tuning in to AI Edge by Microsoft. If this conversation sparked new ideas or insights, follow and share to stay connected on the pulse of AI innovation in Asia. Until next time, keep leading, keep building, and stay curious.